Just let you all know the meeting has not started yet. It should be starting shortly.
At this time, we will call this meeting to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Churchill.
Aye.
Trustee Pfeiffer.
Here.
Trustee Myers. Trustee Washleger. Here. Trustee Connor.
Here.
Trustee Hallquist.
Here.
President Vanderstill.
Here. If you'd all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Trustee Hallquist.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we will have public comments. If anybody'd like to step towards the podium, they can do so. If anybody wants to file in behind the person that's speaking, they can stand behind them, but they can go to the podium now for public comments.
There's a list on the podium. Do you want them to sign in their name and address?
Whenever you go to the podium, please, to help the clerk and the village, if you could sign in with your name and address.
Okay,
Also state your name and address when you speak, but go
okay.
ahead.
And Jeff, this is the first time I've done this. My name is Laura Grunwald, 273 Hazel Lane. So I don't want to exceed any parameters. I'll try and be brief. But I'm here to speak about the concerns on the street parking in the residential area around St. Charles. As many of you know, it's been a concern, safety concerns, narrow streets, no sidewalks, illegally parked cars that create congestion, and impaired vision. We have children with special needs in the neighborhood, and then we also have children walking the streets with no sidewalks and a high traffic volume. There have been numerous citations issued with illegally parked vehicles. The police department is there probably every weekend, if not sometimes daily. And then also in terms of a safety concern, you have delivery trucks that want to stop on this street. Bottom line, there's an extraordinarily high volume of traffic. It's a residential neighborhood, and not only is there
in progress.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Like, not only is there St. Charles, the school at St. Charles, which is a very well-attended school and high parental involvement, but right down the road, not even a block and a half, is Hartland North, which has close to 400 students. So needless to say, you can kind of gather that Monday through Friday, and then on weekends, we have just a ton of traffic. And unfortunately, many days we have more cars parked on the residential streets than in the downtown business district. Obviously, it's created an inconvenience. I think all of the above, which I stated, I'm not going to tell you why I think it's an inconvenience, but we expected more. We expected cooperation and courtesy from the church, from the school families. We felt we haven't gotten that due to the high volume of street parking, especially considering that the 284 car parking lot that was just built and opened last fall virtually has remained shut down during the school days, Monday through Friday. So parents have nowhere to park. They're parking on all the side streets. It's just become, the teachers have had nowhere to park. They allowed the teachers in, but not many of the teachers would park there. Maybe you'd have a dozen parked there, and then the rest of them would spend all day on the streets. So that's a problem. Also, we look at the fact that as taxpayers, street sweeping, brush collection, snow removal, leaf collection in the fall coming up, even garbage. If you're in the neighborhood on garbage collection day, that's a real treat to try and, I just feel so bad for those guys. So what would I like to see done? There's some solutions I'd like to propose. But before I do that, first and foremost, I should have presented this, I'm sorry. We canvassed the neighborhood. I can say this. We canvassed the neighborhood. A lot of the neighbors here were kind enough to help do that, canvass the neighborhood, to get the feeling of, is this just a small group or is this neighborhood-wide? And we got 75 signatures in 2 days. So if we would have had more time, I'm sure we could have gathered more. But there's obviously some things that could be done, and I'm all about solutions. We've talked about traffic control. I know I have talked to Ryan Bailey. I have talked to Chief Miskell about that. You know, could we somehow get traffic control out and St. Charles to do that? They haven't, I think if you read the article in the Freeman, they haven't even attempted to make that something that they would do. They could have had drop-off zones on Renson Road and Circle, and then just if somebody was elderly or had small children, say, hey, you know what, drop off in the drop-off zone so your family doesn't have to walk, move down to the 284 car parking lot, be flagging people on the street. None of that has been done. During the school year, as I just mentioned before, we have 284 cars in that lot. It's been shut down. There has been no lot open to speak of. So with that being said, during the school year, the children have been playing, the recess has been in the 284 car parking lot. So with the new parking lot, which is going to open probably in the next month for what we understand, could St. Charles switch it up and say, we're going to let our kids play over here in the 100 car parking lot, and we're going to keep that 284 car lot open so we can eliminate all of the street parking? That, I don't know. I mean, obviously, this is going to be a first in terms of a new solution. And whether or not they'd be willing to do it, we don't know. We haven't been able to talk to them.
And I'm not trying to be rude, but it's usually 3 minutes. If you could try to tie it into one
Okay.
more minute, that'd be very.
Okay. Yep.
And thank you. This has been noted that this has been
Okay.
received.
And last but not least, an option that I presented to Chief Miskell, I talked briefly to Ryan Bailey, would be for the village to pass an ordinance that basically they'll designate zoned parking, residential, resident parking only by permit. Basically, if you're a resident in the zoned areas, you get a permit, you can put it on your dash, you can get extra permits, the village would issue them, and at that point, any other cars parked on the street, they could easily be ticketed. There would be exceptions made to, obviously, vehicles like, you know, if the mail lady has to park there, or if there's delivery trucks, or, you know, you have somebody working at your house, but it will definitely eliminate all of the street parking if we have zoned. So there's some solutions. I don't know if you want to take the time to read them, but here you go, we can pass those around. And so again, in conclusion, I certainly hope we're getting close to the point where we potentially have to act, and I thank you for your time and consideration and listening.
Thank you.
Okay.
My name is Andrew Lemke and I live at 619 Bellshire Drive. My concern is with the ongoing parking issues that surround St. Charles Church. There has been an ongoing and persistent issue that has only grown with the current construction of the new sanctuary. My concern is that even once the construction is completed, the issue will persist given the amount of seating the new sanctuary will contain versus how many parking spaces the new site will have. Looking through the published plans for the construction site, there will be a total number of parking spaces of about 380 for a sanctuary capable of seating 1,100. That gives a seat to parking ratio of 2.9. The current sanctuary, which seats about 700 with the site originally having about 310 parking spaces, creates a ratio of 2.2 seats per parking space. which means that the parking situation will likely be worse even upon the completion of the construction. To me, that does not help the village or the church meet the goals of improving the traffic flow and parking situation around the church that was discussed within the planning meetings in 2020. I would ask the village board to revisit the statement made in the February 17th Architectural Board and Plan Commission meeting by Building Inspector Hussinger, talking about wanting to see a plan for if parking overwhelms the neighborhood. I feel like we are at that point. I also don't feel that based on the church's operational plan given in the 5/18/2020 Planning Commission and Architectural Board meeting, that the parking will be enough once the construction is completed. The plan states that there is an average weekly attendance of around 900 people at the larger services on Sunday. Based on the U.S. Department of Energy's research, as of 2018, the average number of occupants to a vehicle is 1.5. This means that even if we use a ratio of 2 people per vehicle for these larger services, the church will be short about 90 parking spaces. I will acknowledge that the village code currently mandates a maximum of 5 seats per parking space for a religious building, and that the current approved plan does meet that requirement. But I would say that this is a dated ratio in need of updating. Currently, even the smaller services are causing a parking issue in the area. Last night, the 6 p.m. Sunday service had parking on Belshire Drive and Renson Road almost entirely full. Hazel Lane and Circle Drive also had numerous cars filling a large portion of the parking as well. At the same time, the current parking lot they have open for use was well less than half capacity of the 284 spaces that they have. That service in their operational plan has an average attendance of about 400. I will close by saying that I feel there needs to be continued discussion between the village, St. Charles, and the residents of the neighborhood surrounding St. Charles to come up with a proper way of managing the parking and traffic situation now while the construction is still in progress, and long term upon the completion of this project and into the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I'll give this a copy of this to you guys.
I apologize. I do not have a copy of my remarks. All right. Good evening. My name is David Grievenkamp. I live at 618 Renson Road. We live close enough to St. Charles that we have cars parked in front of our home every Mass every day. We live on a part of Renson Road where every truck carrying dirt, concrete, rock, sand, whatever, passes by our house. We live close enough that we were covered in dust last summer, and we were covered in dust again this summer from construction, landscaping, traffic, and what have you. We also live close enough to St. Charles that we were woken up one night when work was still continuing until 4 o'clock in the morning. We could see unshielded welding from our home, and the pounding of steel beams sounded like someone was pounding on the pipes in our basement. Frustration, annoyance, and anger are some of the words that we use frequently in our home to describe the situation in our neighborhood. The church is physically part of our neighborhood, but the feeling is that they really haven't done anything to be our neighbors, or anything to really give back to our community. The construction has torn up our streets. The parishioners make it less safe for our children to play. They run our stop signs, they speed, they turn around in our driveways, and sometimes they even have been ticketed for parking across driveways. The church as far as I know, the church doesn't pay anything in taxes, and we have not observed them do anything otherwise to build a relationship with our neighborhood. On the contrary, it seems as if there's a feeling of disdain towards us as neighbors, and that's kind of the focus of my remarks today. The disdain towards us is evidenced through the unwillingness to address problems we've expressed, but mostly through interactions with parishioners. And it's not all parishioners, but some parishioners, especially the parishioners who are parking too close to our driveways or no parking zones. From the extremes of being called names when politely asking people to respect parking regulations, to mediocre, as cars continuously use our driveways to turn around in spite of our signs that ask them not to, and even to the mundane. When we're outside, we say hello, as people pass by, but sometimes there seems to be a feeling of a cold shoulder, getting a cold shoulder as people seem to be rushing to their cars to get home so they can wash the dirt of our neighborhood off the bottom of their shoes. In spite of everything, St. Charles is our neighbor. But is St. Charles being neighborly? So since St. Charles is a religious institution, I decided to go to the source. Going back to Jesus' time, neighborliness, turns out, had a very acute meaning. The Israelites themselves saw themselves as God's chosen people, loyal to each other, but entitled to neglect or even condemn those who were not Israelites. The word neighbor in that time carried with it the idea that you were only neighbors to those who shared your same religious affiliation, your same political views. It was Jesus' parable of the Good Samaritan that kind of flipped that concept on its head. Two Jewish men, a priest and a Levite being actually a very high person in the Jewish culture, passed by their brother Jew, who had been robbed, beaten, and stripped on the side of the road. It was a Samaritan who stopped and acted as a neighbor to the man in his time of need. Remember that a Samaritan is a person of different religious affiliation and is often looked down upon by the Jewish people in that time. Jesus was telling us that to be a neighbor requires action. It requires doing something that is neighborly. He is also saying that it's easy to be neighborly to our fellow Christians, our fellow whatever religious affiliation we are. And this day and age, it's easy to be neighborly to those from our church, to those who share our political affiliation. But what's challenging is being a neighbor to someone we don't like, someone we disagree with. And in this framework, this disdain we have received from St. Charles has fallen far short of being neighborly. And I'm thinking of opportunities missed by the church. St. Charles has elderly members of the parish living in the shadows of the construction. No one has asked them to find out that their home is a mess, both inside and out, from the dirt of the construction and from the dozens of trucks that go by a day. They're members of the parish, and I was wondering if the St. Charles has reached out to them to find out if a group of people could come and help clean their home. We're pretty certain that St. Charles is aware of the parking situation, and either through consciously ignored it or just has not found it a big enough priority to address it. And we were wondering if parishioners could use the parking lot. I counted the cars in the parking lot and on the street, and there seems to be enough parking, at least during the summer, for all the cars to fit in that lot. My thought was, has anyone thought about locking the door on the east side of the church, where most people come in from street parking, and force parishioners to enter from the west side from the parking lot? And I know that's a long walk, and there's stairs and there's an elevator, but that gives an opportunity for members of the parish to use wheelchairs to bring members of their church from the parking lot to the sanctuary. I'm sure there's other ideas. I wish I had come up with some more ideas that the parish could implement. We want to be good neighbors. We don't necessarily, I feel like we don't want to be horrible neighbors to St. Charles. We want to find a solution to this and work with St. Charles to make everyone who lives in existence in our neighborhood neighborly, for lack of a better word. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Val Wisniewski, 511 Renson Road. I'd like to start off by saying we don't want to be here tonight talking to you about this. I know that we've got better things to do. I'm sure you guys have a long agenda and whatnot. But you've talked to the church about some items. Some of us have tried to talk to the church about some items, yet nothing has changed. So a lot of us have lived in the community a long time, and so we're not going anywhere. The church is obviously not going anywhere, and what I'm asking for is we need your help as a village. I think that we need mediation, right? Like we all want to be good neighbors, but nothing is getting done, and it's just our community is getting angrier and angrier, and we don't want that. We want, we've lived with the church in our yards forever. So I'm asking that you either maybe organize a mediation with us, you guys in the church, or at the very least, I don't know if you could add, because I know that this is open to public comments, so there's not going to be a dialogue about it, but I'd be curious to hear the board have a dialogue about it. So I don't know if you could put it on your next agenda for your next meeting so that you guys can talk about it, because I think we'd be curious to hear what the board's position is. So, so that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. I am Darcy Sobchak. I live at 223 Meadow Lane in the neighborhood of the church, not quite as close as everybody else. But, and I don't have anything really prepared except to say that recently my son is almost turned 16, and so I've been going over driving with him and been bringing him out driving. I will not bring him out on a Sunday morning, that's for sure. But it had occurred to me one day as I was driving home on a Sunday morning that I was going to drive around the block a few times to see. And having reviewed his reading material for training for driving, there are so many parking infractions, you know, parking too close to crosswalks, parking too close to driveways. And it is so frustrating. Like, I actually watched a guy try to fit his giant SUV right in front of a stop sign, and finally he realized he wasn't going to fit there, so he moved. But I sat there parked at a stop sign for a good minute trying to see whether or not he was going to do it, and should I get out of the car and say, could you please not park there so people crossing the street getting to church don't have a hard time seeing traffic coming. And so it's just, you know, I second Val's suggestion about you guys putting it on your agenda, because I do think that that's the only way it's going to get resolved, is if we, as a village, engage them. And so I have called the police department numerous times, the non-emergency number. I'm sure they have me on record, for people blowing through stop signs, you know, people who come down Renson off of Marquette and then turn to go down, to turn into, they take a right as soon as they hit Meadow. And they just roll right through. And it's not the hugest deal, but in the morning when my children are waiting for their bus at the bus stop at that corner and other children are crossing that street, getting to their bus stops, and I know the bus stops, or the start times for school are staggered, but people don't pay attention. I have seen people just blow through that stop sign completely, and I have wailed on my horn because I'm approaching the intersection and I see somebody just go, shoo, and I have wailed on the horn. And that particular day, the driver looked away from me, just looked the other direction, like, what? They knew they did something wrong, but didn't want to get caught or acknowledge it. I don't know. But it's definitely a safety thing, and I fortunately don't have the same parking frustrations as everybody else, but I have certainly had problems driving down the road, and there's cars that are parked kind of at an angle, so they're not really in a parking spot, and they definitely shouldn't be that close to the lot, and so you have to wait, like traffic gets jammed. So it's really unfortunate that people aren't more polite and conscientious about it. You know, it's really frustrating for the neighborhood. So, and as Val said, some of us would prefer to be someplace else tonight, and I have to go someplace else, which is why I snuck in here so fast. So, so I do hope that you guys can put it on your agenda, and I'll definitely be at that meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I know you've all seen me too many times. I'm Ann Gravenkamp. I'm at 618 Renson Road, and I wasn't going to speak tonight because I was going to allow the rest of my neighbors to speak because they all came out tonight, which I appreciate. But I will say this issue has not changed since the beginning of construction. Since then, I have emailed the board. I have shown up here to talk to the board. I have shown up to the architectural board to make sure that I was on camera so that this was, everyone knew that I made these comments. I've called the police department. I've called the village of Hartland. I've talked to Dave Faulkner many times. We've had great conversations, actually. I appreciate the start of trying to do something to help our neighborhood by the temporary no parking signs. It does not help, however, but that is not that you did not try. So I want to point that out. We need everyone to be working together. The church will not work with us. And I'm sorry if that offends anybody, but we've called. I've called the church several times. At the beginning, it was I called Dave to then call the church, to call the police. The police can only do what the police can do. They can enforce ordinances. I respect that. I understand that. I'm not mad at the police. But what are we supposed to do? Here's my daughter. She's hearing impaired. I can't let her out during the day when there's constant parking there. People turn in and out of your driveway. You can put a no parking sign up or a no turnaround sign up. Doesn't matter. They don't respect that. Okay? I can't change other people's behaviors. We need to go further. Something needs to happen. I just wanted to point out, and I've been listening to comments and they've all been really good, but this isn't just an issue that happens during the school year, and it's not just an issue that happens during the summer. This is all the time. Jeff, you've been to our house. You know where we live. You know where we live in relation to the church. It's all the time. It's constant. And it's really, we don't have the schedule of the church, nor do I think that I should have to go onto the church's website to find out when there's a funeral, when there's a wedding, when there's whatever. But whenever that happens, our neighborhood is their parking lot. They have a parking lot. The last 2 days, we have driven around, not just my husband and myself, but our group has driven around and taken count of how many people have been parking in that parking lot versus our neighborhood. And it has been half the amount each time, each day. 50 people in the parking lot, 100 people on our neighborhood streets. Why can't they park in the parking lot? I get it, it's not convenient, not my problem. We pay the taxes in our neighborhood. We pay to live there. They bought that property. I don't quite understand why it can't be utilized for parking. And I don't really care about the excuses anymore. I want our neighborhood back a little bit. It's not about not working with them. Again, Dave would attest to this. We've had conversation after conversation. I know it can't change. This board, or maybe not this current board, but a board of this version approved that church to be built. It wasn't an addition. It's a whole new church. It's $16 million. Dave and I talked about this, and our neighborhood together is probably not worth $16 million. You've seen the houses, okay? I love our neighborhood. I'm not talking down about it, but the point is a $16 million church in our neighborhood is really not quite the place for that. Can't change it, can't change it. What are you gonna do for us? You are our local government. We don't have anywhere else to turn to. We're asking for your help, and we need it. And everyone has asked you here to put this on your agenda. Please do it, because we're not going away, and we're not trying to be a pain, but this is not great for us. It's terrible for us, and this is how we live every single day. So we need your help. Please help us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Alexis Vanek. We are very new to the neighborhood. We just purchased a house on Hazel Lane, 212 Hazel Lane, last fall, and obviously this is the only version of our neighborhood that we know, but I wanted to bring up a few new points that I think have been impacting our neighborhood and maybe just a new perspective. I work from home, and this is obviously a very common thing now. We have strangers driving in our driveway every single day. I'm home alone during the day. I'm home alone most nights. I don't feel very safe having people driving into our driveway, having people parking on our streets. It's just very uncomfortable for me as a girl who is home alone. Second is walking safety. It's been brought up a few times. Having cars parked on our streets make a lot of blind spots for people who are walking dogs, walking with kids, walking with wagons. It's really scary, especially because Hazel Lane is literally a circle, like it has an outlet. We don't need people using our driveways to turn around. We don't need people parking on our streets when maybe we want to have company over, maybe we want to have friends over. We should have that parking for us as residential people who pay taxes. And then lastly, it just seems like this is a convenience thing for the churchgoers who want to have a quick exit. They have a huge parking lot, as we've said many times. They're not using it because it's easier to walk across the street, jump in your car, and get out instead of waiting. So those are all my points. Thanks.
Can I ask a clarifying question on that? You said you moved in last fall?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry.
Anybody else want to speak?
My name is Charles Cawool. We live at 208 Hazel Lane, and we've lived there for 50 years. We moved here in 1972, and it was a very wonderful, quiet, reasonable neighborhood. St. Charles was there, and St. Charles was a very reasonable church. Never did we have trouble on our streets with parking until 2 years ago when all of this started. And I'm sorry to say that that church has been overblown, as people have said, financially and size-wise for the neighborhood. It's like we know from quotations of a certain individual who was a big part of this church that this was going to be the biggest Catholic church in Waukesha County. It looks like the Taj Mahal. You people drive by it and you could see those towers going. It looks like the Tower of Babel. I mean, it's very sad. And Alexis is my new next door neighbor with her husband, and she has had problems, and they're legitimate problems. My new neighbor that moved in last fall over on the corner of Renson Road and Hazel Lane, this was going to be their forever home. He told me a week ago when I went over to visit with him when he was out mowing his grass, he said, "I'm sorry, this is not going to be our forever home. This has just become ridiculous with the noise and the mayhem and it constantly going on. We can't live here. They have a 2.5-year-old little girl, and they can't let her out. Again, obviously she's too young to be unsupervised, but he said, we would have afraid to have her out in the yard with all of that traffic and so on. And I will also say, I've been outside doing a lot of work from time to time through the last 2 years, and when people have dropped people off on the other side of Hazel Lane near the church, and they come whipping around Hazel Lane, and they're going about 30 miles an hour. And and we have many little children on our side of the street, many wonderful little children. And, they are smart, they look each way, but still, it is absolutely ridiculous and dangerous to have cars driving at that kind of speed around Hazel Lane or any of the other cul-de-sacs going up Renson Road when they, and so and the other thing I've noticed on Tuesdays, and it persists and gets worse in the winter, when the teachers park their cars right up against our driveways, the garbage truck, I feel sorry for that man when he comes around. He has to stop and get out at every house and move the barrel over so he can get it in that automatic lifter, and then goes back down, and then he has to get it, and then he has to get and push it back. And that should not happen. There should be space enough for a garbage truck to pick up garbage. So I'm just sorry, after 50 years, we've raised, our son was 5 and our daughter's 3, and our son now is 55 and our daughter's 53. And they loved this community. They went to Hartland North, and they loved St. Charles Field, and they loved playing there. And they were part of the St. Charles community as well, even though we were not members of the school over there. And so it's become a very sad thing, the way it's deteriorated. And something must be done by you folks to alleviate this problem, so that new families moving in won't say, we're not gonna stay here long now that we've discovered what's going on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else out there?
Anyone on Zoom with any comments?
Yep.
Name's Chip Schneeberger, live on 251 Circle, probably one of the heaviest traveled intersections by the church. And yeah, it's a little bit of a problem, but it's being handled pretty good. I have no complaints with it per se, so I'm happy.
Thank you.
Again, nobody on Zoom with any comments for public comments? No.
Anybody else, last call, anybody else want to speak? And again, the petition and the items that have been turned in have been received and marked. Okay, the first item on the agenda is consideration of village board minutes for July 25th, 2022.
Make a motion to approve the village board minutes of July 25th, 2022.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the July 25th meeting. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Please turn your mics on. Next item on the agenda, consideration of vouchers for payment in the amount of $410,974.04.
I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers in the amount of $410,974.04.
It's been moved and seconded to pay the vouchers in the amount of $410,974.04. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have lists for bartenders permits and things of that nature. Samantha Prout, bartender's operator's license. Recommended for approval by the police chief.
I make a motion, we accept the bartender's license.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve that bartender's license. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Who? Okay, restricted species permit is on Zoom. Chandra Brian Bronstead, 400 Oxford Lane. Restricted species permit is for, that doesn't say. What is it?
From last
That was
last
for
meeting.
the 4 chickens, if I remember right.
4 chickens. You're on Zoom. Go ahead. Take a minute to tell us what you're getting.
We would like to get a permit to have 4 chickens that we would keep in the enclosed coop, which we submitted a picture of in our backyard. They would not free range at all. They would be solely for egg production and as our pets.
Okay? And you're right, my fault that this was put on the last, this was on the last agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the restricted species permit for the 4 chickens at 400 Oxford Drive for the Bronsteads. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion's carried. Now we have consideration of a special events permit for Beer Snobs, Snobtoberfest on October 1st. Their August 20th event has been canceled. If they'd like to come up and speak or answer questions, they can. Obviously, my understanding is this event is the same as it's been in the years past.
This has gone through staff. Just to give a little update, the only thing we requested was reach out to the neighbor, the new owners of the Hartland Inn. Not necessarily for approval, we just always require it, so.
Yes, I have made 3 phone calls and left 2 messages, so I haven't heard back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please keep trying,
Okay.
if you get them.
Yeah.
I have a question, couple questions. Hours of street closure, you have 8 a.m. to midnight. My question is, why so early? Because I know like when the chamber did their street dance on the street, they would close usually about 2 o'clock and they'd be ready by 5. And that's setting up a stage and everything, putting out all the garbage cans. Why do you need it closed at 8 a.m.?
I think that's when the beer truck delivery comes and then the porta potties and
Right,
then
we had
the
all that too
tent.
for the street dance.
Okay, well,
I'm just wondering why.
I've never done an event yet, so
Oh.
this is just what previous Steve has put in there from the previous events.
That is correct.
Correct, they didn't, because of the beer truck and the ice truck, they had garbage roll in and they had the Metros roll in, so they did close it down all day
Okay.
previously.
Yeah,
The
my
oth-
parking lot's been like that for 4 years or however long since I've been
Okay.
there.
The other question I have is, I noticed on something else, that there was a note made, you're gonna have canopies or tents, temporary structures. You're not gonna be are you gonna be drilling stakes into the road at any point? How are you gonna be holding those to the ground so they don't blow away?
The tent company comes and sets all that up, so
But we're not,
I don't think.
because we have requested another, business that's having a function not to drill holes into the street.
Okay.
So I'm just wondering, how are they gonna be, secured?
Can I answer? One of the events that they had at Beer Snobs, they did secure the tent. They had a tent because of inclement weather. They secured it with barrels, 55-gallon drums, and they put the legs of the tent inside the barrel and then sanded the barrel.
Okay, but is that what's gonna be done this time?
Yes.
I mean,
That's what we
that-
want. We don't allow anyone to drill the stakes into the road, because that damages the road.
Yeah, I get that, but I can check with the tent company. It's been the same tent company that he's used for every event.
Well, if you can just make sure that they don't do that, cause that, like I said, would
Yeah.
be expensive. And then the other question I had, I looked at your drawing here of your, event. Which way does the stage face? Is it gonna be facing West Capitol, or is it gonna be facing, east, west? Which way does the stage go?
It's facing this way, so.
West.
Yeah.
Facing west.
Yeah,
Up the hill.
yes,
Okay,
yes, towards Cottonwood, yes,
okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
yes.
Any other discussion? I believe we have a motion to second and floor, correct?
Did we?
Or did we
Motion
just take
made.
question?
No
Okay.
I'll
made.
I'll
I'll entertain one, though.
I'll make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve this for Beer Snobs. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That's carried. That
Thank
motion's
you.
carried. Thank you.
Thanks.
Please keep on trying to call Hartland in and do verify with that construction company. Make sure they know they can't go in, because you'll get paid, you'll be paying for it. Do not let them drill holes. Don't let them bang on it. Don't let them put in any stakes. But thank you very much. Yeah, talk to these guys. They'll get you all set up. Now we have consideration for a special events permit for Palmer's 10th event on September 25th, which is a long-standing thing that's been going on for a long time in the village. Not yet. Do you have any questions?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded to,
Let me finish the motion. To approve the special events permit for Palmer's 10 event on September 25th, 2022.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded to approve the 10th event. I will ask, Mr. Arenas, if you could come forward, just so that everybody knows we got some new board members. Can you give, very briefly, can you give a brief explanation of how this started, what it's for, how it's, why
Sure,
you really
sure.
got into this, but what the 10th event really does, why it does a lot for Heartland, but also the other organization that it really, really benefits, and who it benefits?
Absolutely. So our son was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis when he was 6 months old. We decided to take the challenge on and raise money to help find a cure for that. Over the years, we've raised almost $2.5 million for the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. And since then, he's been double lung transplanted. So he did not beat cystic fibrosis, but he did not kill him. So that's the good news. So we went on to start raising our funds for Donate Life to get people's awareness to donate organs so people can live like our son is. And he's living a very healthy and fruitful life right now. After that, we decided to raise money for the transplant team that helped save his life. And we raised $1.5 million for them in 3 years with this event. We've fulfilled that goal. They built a brand new transplant center at UW-Madison, and we raised another $1 million for that endeavor. We're the second largest donor for that new transplant center up at UW-Madison. This year, we've taken on a couple new charities. One of them is Journey 21 in Oconomowoc. It's a home they're building for special needs children. At some point, we were going to stop doing our fundraiser, and we realized that we're too far into this, too invested into it. We do a nice event, and we can raise $250,000 on a Sunday afternoon, and we appreciate your help letting us close the street down, because we probably couldn't do it without you guys. So that's what our mission has been, and that's what our mission will continue to be. We close the restaurant for the day. We don't profit anything that day. We give it all back to the charity, and we raise about $250,000. So that's why we're here.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did I take the vote?
I have a question. Not for you though, Jerry. This is a question. Why does Palmer's need to get an application for temporary Class B?
Serving on the street, not part of their operating permit.
But what about who just left? They don't have one. Did they have one? Did they have a
They're on the
permit?
sidewalk and that's where they do the selling.
Even on the road there? They don't need one to be on the road?
They're close enough, because they sell on the patio. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we could go in and shut them down if we
Well, I
want to,
just
but
know,
I
I
don't
was
think we want
curious
to.
as to why they had to have this and the other ones didn't.
Because Palmer's always does things tip-top. They just nail it every time. That's what you get from the best steakhouse this side of the Mississippi, I'm telling you.
So what exactly?
Big boulders to hold the pencil place.
Yeah.
Thank you for all the support. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, but seriously, we could force it, but I mean, they're very close. They use it right on the sidewalk. That's part of their serving operation. I'm just saying, Palmer's does not have that as part of their plan of operation. That's the reason. We could change it, but that's the reason. You're literally talking about 8 feet. The chance of the
Well, I know
police
they-
shutting that down is
Okay.
slim to none, because they're gonna say, wait a minute, let the village deal with that, like us.
Well,
Now,
I
we
just-
could force it, but
Okay.
anybody else, or anything else, Ann? Anybody else? Did we get a motion? Good, oh, we even, okay, we voted. I think
No, there's no motion yet.
Yep, and we
Oh,
just
that's
need a
right,
vote.
that's right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now you're really gonna be upset with me, and you'll realize why I was going so quick. But I am gonna call for a recess, but I do wanna explain, part of the reason that I did go so quickly, I know that that may have even seemed unprofessional, due to the fact that a lot of times we don't have a lot of public comments, but we had 2 business owners here, and I wanted to kind of get to those if we could, because I knew that, we could get to them. The rest of us, we're just politics junkies. We love sitting here and going through it, but I wanted to get them out of here. So we'll call a recess now for just about 5 minutes.
we decided to sell it. The next piece you're going to see is up to the left on your screen. We have two parcels there. We have Zion Church, which is currently institutional. It is no longer owned by a church. It is now owned by an individual who they're kind of working through the process of what they're going to do. The only thing we've had come forward is commercial land uses, so you can see we're zoning that for the red commercial instead of public industrial. The upper left of that section, you will see a gray. That gray just means it's not ours, not owned by us. It is, as we are aware, it's been bought by Quick Trip. So the use for that land we see is commercial for that little piece off of Highway 83, West Capitol, Vedelson, Palmer, that area. Going a little bit higher, we have the property off of Lisbon and Merton Avenue. We heard from the Plan Commission, all of those parcels were medium density and moving them all to low density just to kind of keep the flow with all the neighborhoods. So there's really not much change in there. Most of the house is already built. We're just changing that to medium density. And if you go up, I believe the final one we have is the Vilter Farm. That is currently in the town of Merton. We had two options. We decided to move forward with option one, which would be all low-density residential. As stated, that's currently in the town of Merton, so if it would come forward to us, we see it as option one, low-density residential, instead of the medium density that it's currently shown as. So, again, tonight is just reading number 2. We would go forward with another reading next meeting. It's just public hearing.
Okay. At this time, we'll open that public hearing. Anybody that would like to speak? Anybody on Zoom?
Nobody, everybody's off Zoom.
Just a couple seconds so that we can at least make a minute. Since we have no one that wants to speak at this time, or we have no other speakers, at this time we will close the public hearing, but it is noted that the public hearing was opened and closed as required by law. Now we have consideration of a second reading of a bill for an ordinance number 627, 2022-1, an ordinance adopting an amendment to the Village of Hartland Comprehensive Development Plan 2045 regarding future land use designations. Upon the third reading of this, it would be entertained that it would pass unless someone felt a need to suspend the rules now and do something else. But otherwise, the next time we read this at our next village board meeting, it would be anticipated that it would then be passed, or a motion would be made to pass it. Motion seconded. With that being said, unless someone wants to make some type of a motion, their second reading has been done. The next item we have is consideration of a contract for the 2022 street tree and subdivision tree planting program, as was shown in the information included in our packet.
With the approval of the 2022 village budget, we okayed money for street tree planting that DPW removed. This would be the emerald ash that had the ash borer and miscellaneous trees that have died. And then also in this is we're obligated to, per the agreement of subdivisions, we have to plant subdivision trees that have gained their occupancy from May 1st of 2021 to May 1st of 2022. That money has been received. By the developers have paid for all of them, but we only plant the ones that have occupancies and lawns established. So in that process, we put these trees out for proposal. We tried sending them out to 4 different companies multiple times, and we only received 2 proposals. And with that, Johnson Nursery Incorporated came in low at $56,086.62. So that money gets split between the developers and the environmental budget, $470. That's where our street trees come out of. So staff is recommending the awarding of the 2022 tree planting to Johnson Nursery Incorporated for the sum of $56,086.62.
I'll make a motion that we award the contract to Johnson's Nursery for $56,086.62.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the street tree planting and subdivision tree street tree planting for the amount stated.
I have a question.
Yes.
I notice it says here, proposal for the street tree and subdivision tree planting. Is this quote for the tree and the planting of the tree?
Yes,
So they themselves will come and plant these trees? We
that is
don't do
correct.
that.
This is for planting and staking of the trees.
And then you tell them which one of these trees goes where?
That is okayed by the village board and the planning commission.
So-
When the developers come in with their landscape plans for the new subdivisions.
And would some of these also be replacing where we had to take down some trees that
Yes.
aren't new? Do we have a certain list of trees that are
So-
available for, let's say somebody like me, let's say the trees in the right of way at my house died. Do you have a list that, I mean, some of these trees are a little, on the expensive side and a little bit, exotic, should I say?
So in 2021, I reached out to a couple nurseries and I asked what street trees would be great for municipalities in terrace areas. What we want is a deep root and nothing that spreads out and will hoist our sidewalks up. That's what we're trying to get away from. And they recommended the elms, the honey locust, the lindens, and the maples, which you'll see on the second page. So there's 44 of them trees that we're gonna be planting. Them are the 44 that we removed in 2021 with emerald ash borer and miscellaneous diseases.
So the real expensive ones that are on here, like $500 and up, those were specifically requested by someone, I'm assuming?
That's the subdivision.
Okay.
That was okayed through the acceptance of the subdivision development plan and the landscape plan.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else want to speak? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have consideration of a fire truck bailment agreement between the Village of Hartland and Douglas Brom. This is regarding the 1938 fire truck that we have.
So back in February, I brought the initial agreement with that retired Chief Brom had written up, and you had asked that Attorney De La Mora look at it and suggest a possible contract. So he returned the contract to us a couple weeks back. I forwarded on to Chief Brom for his review. He stated he is agreeable to the contract and would like to sign it and take possession of the truck. So my recommendation is that we enter into that contract with Chief Brom to take possession of the engine for rehab display until we have a place to store it appropriately.
And this essentially was drafted by Attorney De La Mora.
Correct.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
It seems like we've covered, in case there's a problem, or, okay, let me back up. My question is, what happens if Mr. Brom does not want to continue with this? Or let's say he's unable to, or like the storage that he was using for some reason says, nope, can't do it anymore, or something would happen to him where he's unable to take care of it anymore?
We would get the truck back.
That's not in these papers, though. And I would think we'd want to cover that in here and say, unless I missed it, and but I don't think I did. And just so that if he at any time says, you know what, I don't want to do this, he doesn't just pass it down to somebody else, that maybe we don't, I don't know, that we keep track of who's in charge of it, and if he doesn't want to do it, or should get sick or something, that we can get it back, or maybe locate it somewhere. What?
Number 11.
Number 11?
Under line 56.
Okay.
Deliver the fire engine to the village within 48 hours in the event that the village decides to terminate this fire
Right.
truck bailment agreement.
But that's the village terminating it.
Right,
We
so-
would terminate if we
But-
decided that we didn't want it passed down.
So
Correct, yeah,
so
it's,
that
I mean, it still
encompasses-
remains our truck.
Right.
He's just gonna keep track of it. If something should happen to him, it automatically comes back to us.
I just wanted to make sure that was,
Well, by
Okay.
legal contract, it's between the village and Brom. Anything
right,
happens to
but
him,
that line
it's
that
null
you
and
had,
voided.
that's not how I understood that. I guess I just like things in black and white a little bit more in detail, but if the attorney thinks this is great, and it covers that, it didn't in my mind, so. I just want to make sure that we don't lose it. Thank you. I'm done.
I'll make a motion to approve the fire truck bailment agreement between the Village of Hartland and Douglas Brown as stated.
I'll second. Been moved and seconded to approve the bailment agreement between the Village of Hartland and Douglas Brown. All in favor? Or, I'm sorry, discussion? Anybody? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Now we have the discussion or consideration of a purchase of a 2019 Chevy Silverado for fire department command vehicle use.
So we budgeted in 2022 for a new command vehicle for the fire department. We've been getting the police vehicles as a hand-me-down, and the last one we got, we ran it for about 2 months and ended up putting $3,500 into the engine because the cams went out of it. So we had got this through the budget process. Initially, we had $36,000 for the vehicle. When I talked to them at Ewald, they gave me that initial price of $27,761.08, but then came back with an amended price of $31,568.50 with the contract. Pretty much spent my morning yelling at people at Ewald because of what they told me and not getting me the prices back. We're still under budget, about $4,000, and then with that remaining money, I would like to use that to upgrade and put lights and siren on it and everything else. So.
Make a motion that we approve the purchase of the 2019 Chevy Silverado as quoted by Ewald for $31,568.50.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the purchase of the 2019 Chevy Silverado for fire department command vehicle use. Any discussion?
The current vehicle that you are now utilizing?
Go to
The little-
that'll go to my deputy chiefs for a take-home vehicle when they're on at night.
Okay.
So,
And then you also listed a picture of the vehicle that you were talking about, that you put $3,100 worth in the cams.
Right.
Is that correct? Okay.
Correct.
How many miles does that have on it? Did you know?
offhand, I'm like 89,000, I want to say, something in that area.
89?
Yeah.
Is there any, I know you said you argued with, there's any opportunity to take it up higher a little bit, in Ewald's to get that
I will
27,000
I will
price?
continue to work on that. I let them know how unhappy I was with them today. I talked to the sales lady, the finance guy who gave me the pricing, and then I've been waiting to hear back from the sales manager yet, so.
I have a few comments, and that I feel like some things have changed since the 2022 when we were doing that budget. Most recently, there was an announcement made about 2 months ago where we were here and we didn't know something was coming, but it seemed like there was some very, very tough things going on with getting people to work in the department, possibly that even more full-timers had to be hired in the department. That along with the price going up for the vehicle. I can't, we also put $300,000 into new protective equipment, which was a good thing because it was expired, but with the money that has been being spent, I just don't think that this is the best time to get what would be considered an extremely nice, command vehicle when we already have one, so that we can keep on rolling until we figure out this emergency that was proposed and told to us, in the announcements of that meeting. And I personally cannot, until we figure out what's going on, I can't in good conscience do that. I also think that, I mean, if, it's a heck of a vehicle. It's a nice vehicle, but with the price going up, even if we're within budget, I think we're gonna find quickly that if we were to go do the solutions that are being asked, or even proposed by the fire department, we got a lot of expenditures coming up, and in the last 2 years, we've had a lot of expenditures going out. I can't in good conscience say, let's figure this out first, because it constantly is piecemeal, and I kind of said the last time, I said, I can't keep doing it. And we've pieced it together. It's been, we've put the new trucks in, we've got the new ambulances with all the bells and whistles, we've got the protective equipment, we're doing everything, and this is just another step, but at some point, I think the bleeding has to stop, or at least we have to figure out what we're doing and coming up with a plan That's me, but I can't in good conscience. At some point, it's gotta stop with there being no plan in place and it always being one individual thing at a time. But mostly it's because we were warned that there's some type of an emergency going on where we're really having trouble getting people to calls, getting people, and possibly even having to hire multiple, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 full-timers. This truck purchase isn't gonna affect that much, but it's a 1/3 of a full-timer. So with that being said, I just can't. Any other discussion? All in favor?
I
Aye. Aye. All opposed? Aye.
did have a question.
What?
You said, was there any question? I had one.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. I can retake the vote.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'll retake the vote after yours.
On the black vehicle here that is gonna go up for auction, do we know what kind of value is assessed on that roughly?
The last time
I know an auction's an auction, but.
Yeah, the last time I looked, I think those have been going in the $8,000 range.
Okay. Could this be used as the?
We do.
As
All
well.
corporate reserve kind
Let
of.
me finish.
No, What?
As a vehicle for the
Right, I
fire
mean, I know
department?
we
It's
put-
currently a vehicle for the fire department. They wanna get rid of it.
Right, but is there still current problems happening other than the cam problems that were put into it? That's what I guess I'm looking, is it continually like?
It's
bleeding
got
us?
a couple of steering issues right now, so generally haven't been using it lately.
Those cars are all hand-me-downs from the police department.
Right.
Anything else, sir?
No, I'm good.
Anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns? I'm gonna call the question a second time, only because I apologize that I did not mean to cut anybody off. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. That motion carries.
Said nay.
Who? Oh, so we have to, sorry, did you catch it? Okay, I didn't, sorry. That still carries, 5-2. The next item we have is consideration of a request to sell the surplus fire department equipment. I do believe, if you look in your packet, Chief did put on there to sell it on the site, the auction site. I know it doesn't say it just on the item, but in the packet, he did state on the auction site. We always try to say that because we had a hiccup before he was even chief, where someone didn't sell it on the auction site, but we always say it's gotta be on the auction site because it just makes everything easy. And I do agree with this one. We gotta, no need to keep it. No, go ahead.
The items that you're selling, you have purchased new equipment, right? For
Correct.
this old
Yeah, the old SCBA equipment.
And educate me, because I don't know, is there something that you could like buy 2 this year, 2 next year, 2 next year, 2 next year, instead of buying 12 in 1 year to have such a big lump sum? I mean, is that something you can do in the budget?
A lot of times, yes. With the SCBA's, the tanks all came due at the same time, and then the pack units themselves, what the tanks go into, MSA stopped making parts for them. So with us selling these, the old units now, we get some money back for people who are still trying to fix them.
Well,
The big thing there is kind of everything came at once.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed that, and I mean, in the park board, where for the new, like the playground apparatuses, we put it on a schedule where every 2 years we purchase one.
Previously, it had not been on the schedule, and it is now on the schedule,
that
the
would be
replacement
very
schedule,
helpful
so.
for budget
Right.
issues. Okay. That's all I wanted.
Anybody else?
Make a motion then to approve the request to sell surplus fire department equipment on auction.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to sell the surplus fire department equipment that was listed on the auction site in the packet. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? That motion is carried. Announcements. Leo. Mr. Faulkner.
Our clerk may have one.
What's Oh, I'm gonna hit it before, so you don't have to talk. If you wanna say it, you can. Mr. Faulkner?
Yes. So in our 2022 budget process, we ordered 2 trucks early last year. We ordered a pickup truck and a new water truck for the water department. We reached out to them this week and they stated we are still not on a build date. So that's been a long time. But the good thing is they did not cancel our order. So that means we should be able to get them vehicles this year. On another side note, we just received word that Arlene Lift Station we're rehabbing that through the budget process. That's part of the growth on the northeast side of town. We're doing a generator and a transfer switch. When we lose power, the transfer switch activates and it starts the generator. We were just told that the generators are now 6 months out. So that the 22 project is now carrying into 2023. So I just wanted to give you a heads up on that.
Just give the board a little background on the truck. We got an email from Leo. Truck orders for 2023 are due by this Friday, if you want one, and you may not even get it till 2024. We haven't hit our budget process.
There's multiple issues. I mean, there's wood, there's the chips, the microchips are problems, metal's the problem. What else is the problem, Leo? Here, Leo.
So, yeah, essentially, we didn't bring it to you, but they're not gonna be able to order a truck next year.
Well, you may order it, but you may not get it.
What's the holdup?
Everything.
What's caused this? What was the initial cause?
Labor and like he says, equipment, you know. The dealers can't get the equipment and the pieces to produce them.
Okay.
So the trucks that Ryan is referring to, that is for the state bid. As you recall, last year we didn't go with the state bid because we got it cheaper elsewhere. Our guys didn't get electric windows; they have cranks. So we went outside the state bid last year just to save some money.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that update, Chief.
I had wrote a grant for the We Energies Foundation. I believe PD got it last year, and I wrote a grant this year for the We Energies Foundation. We were notified a couple weeks back that we'll be receiving a grant. It's $2,000, and it's towards new fire helmets and boots for the personnel. And I believe next meeting they will be here to do a presentation. So
awesome.
A couple things from the PD. Chief Misko's at the Chiefs Conference in Green Bay. That's why I was unable to attend this evening. Tyler Martins recently started the police academy at Waukesha County Technical College on August 3rd. And just a reminder that I moved to second shift and Lieutenant Sabaniak is now covering third shift for supervisor responsibilities.
Cool. Thank you. Mr. Hallquist?
I have nothing.
I'm good. Good. Tomorrow is an election. It's a primary. Let's start talking. Village Manager, Ryan Bailey.
Just a reminder to the board and the public, August 20th, next Saturday, 2 Saturdays, is our board training that's open to the public. Our village attorney will be giving a presentation. I'll be walking everybody through the budget, and then any department heads that want to be there are more than welcome.
And where will that be hosted?
That will be right here at 8 a.m. Donuts provided. If you make it to lunch, maybe we'll get food.
We'll make it work. We'll get there. Kidding. I'm kidding. But if you're here, you get lunch. Or a donut, depending on how long we go.
Just make sure you got enough donuts.
Is there a bake sale tomorrow during the election? The Women's Club of Hartland is having a bake sale tomorrow when you come in to vote. If you come in to vote, which I strongly encourage you to do if you'd like to. I always think it's a good thing. You're allowed that right, so why not use it? 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. here in the village tomorrow. Remember, it's a primary, so when you come, don't yell at the clerk because your ballot gets spit out. Know that you accidentally crossed party lines. You can vote for Democrats, Republicans, Independents, or Libertarians, but only one grouping. Hopefully that makes sense. That's how it always is in primaries. That's not a Hartland rule. It's just the way it is, but you'd be surprised how much our clerk hears people say, This is so stupid. Why is my ballot getting kicked out? And they got a Democrat checked over here and a Republican and a Libertarian. That's like, you can't do that. Anyways, we have some kind of odd laws here in Wisconsin, but do keep that in mind. They seem to be ready to go. Trying to think if there's anything else in the village. National Night Out was actually really cool. This past Thursday, down at all of Nixon Park, Flight for Life came in. I really want to commend everybody on village staff and other volunteers. Hartland Lakeside was there, the library was there, all kinds of people were there. It really, really was. I mean, it was really cool. I think the kids really enjoyed it. I think parents enjoyed it. It was a really good event. And I think it's just great for our community and another showcase for the park there. So other than that, I don't have any, I got nothing. I will call St. Charles. That's an announcement. I will make a call and see if I can make a service and do the speaking myself. Last call for anybody. Hit it. Go.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn this meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This meeting's adjourned.